In this video, we'll be configuring one of many different security policies throughout this series. Now, backing up a bit, a firewall policy can either be a protocol port-based or application-based policy. Again, we'll be configuring many of these policies in separate videos. Protocol port filtering means that the firewall is only looking at the protocol and port number of a session to either block it or permit it. For example, if we want to allow sending email, then the protocol would be TCP and the port number would be 25. Therefore, those details will be configured within a new policy. In this video, we will begin with the basics and configure a security policy focused only on the protocol and port number in our decision for blocking or allowing that traffic through our network. This video will also help to show the components for building a security policy in general, which is important. What we will configure specifically is an outbound policy allowing our user network to access HTTP and secure HTTP sites. We will also allow DNS for site resolution to those sites. But the first thing that needs to be done is defining the service objects for these application protocols. To add these objects, we first need to go to the Objects tab in our firewall, then to Services on the left. Now here there are some defaults. There's one for HTTP and one for HTTPS. These objects are added by default. We can look at the details by going to them. Let's go to Service HTTP. Okay, and here you will see the descriptive name, the protocol that it's using, which is TCP, the port numbers, or the destination port, which would be 80 or 8080. It could be one of these numbers. And the source port is basically any number. So this here will define basically the protocol and the port number information. Let's go ahead and close this up. And we can do the same thing for HTTPS. So we see the name, the protocol, the destination port, which is 443, and of course any source port. So basically, if you have other applications and you know the protocol and the ports, then you can add it as a new service object. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to add a new service object for DNS. To do that, we're going to go down to Add. For the name, to be consistent with our default, we're going to call the service DNS UDP. For the protocol, we're going to select UDP. And the port number for DNS is 53. And that's it. We'll say OK. And now that object has been added and will be used as part of our policy. Now let's add our policy. We do that by going to the Policies tab, then going to Security, which is the default. And so far there are no policies listed. And we're going to go to Add. Within this window, we can add a policy rule based on what we need to allow. Now you'll see a series of mini tabs here, and the rule of thumb for most configuration on the PAN appliance is to work from the left all the way to the right. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to show you exactly how to add a policy rule that will basically allow our traffic based on the protocol and the port number details. Therefore, starting with general, we will enter a descriptive name, which we will call users outbound internet. Let's go to the source tab, and this will be the source, and that will be our user network. The zone, that will be from the LAN zone. And for the source address, we could say any, but we want to be more selective because we have other networks that are a part of that zone, like our server network. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on Add and define the object for our user network that we added earlier. Now let's go to the destination, and that will be the internet itself. Well, that will happen through our WAN zone. Let's select that. And of course, that will be any IP address. Now let's go to the service URL category. And this is where we can define what particular services our user network can access. We can do that by going here to the left and going to Add, then adding the service objects. So one of them will be HTTP for non-secure websites, and we'll add another one for secure websites. Remember, those are the default objects. Now let's add our custom object for DNS for resolution. Keep it simple. And now, once we're done with that, we'll go to the Actions tab. Next, we can specify if that rule will be allowed or denied. We do want to allow our users to do those things. You see profile settings, and that deals with information like enabling URL filtering to even file blocking. We'll deal with those in separate videos. And you see log setting, that we can basically log at the start or at the end of a session. But we're going to leave this checked, the default, which is log at the session end. So let's go ahead and click on OK to add this rule. And now let's commit our changes. Okay, so we're finished. Let's close that. Now, let's go ahead and confirm that this policy works, including the NAT configuration that we did in an earlier video. So we'll bring up a user computer that we're connected to, and let's go to a web browser. Okay, and automatically we see that we are connected. Let's go to another page just to make sure that works. And it works. We can look at the current IP that we're connected to right now because our NAT configuration is using the WAN IP, and there it is. That is the correct IP that is configured on our WAN facing interface. So we have confirmed that NAT works, but we also confirmed that internet access to HTTP sites also work. We can also view the details of that session from our user computer by going to Monitor. And for the traffic, which is under logs, this is the current information for all sessions that has ended. That's why it says ended here. But this provides a lot of good information. We can see the actual time, the from to zone, the source, the destination IP, the port number that user is connecting to, the application, whether it was allowed or denied, including the matching rule that is added under our security policies. And let's move this bar to the right where you'll see even byte information for that particular session. So very good information. Now these IPs here that you see for destination, we can actually resolve that by clicking here where it says resolve hostname. In doing that, it would automatically try to translate what it can based on the DNS servers that it is set to. Another thing that we're going to do is add a service object group. To do that, let's go back to objects. Then let's go to service objects. So here we're going to add a new group that will contain the service objects of DNS, HTTP, and HTTPS. So we're going to go to add. We're going to call this group users internet services. The services we're going to add, let's say add, will be our DNS object that we customly added, object for HTTP, and the object for HTTPS. So basically in the future, if we have other services that we want to add, we can just add it to the group and not do anything with the policy itself. Once we're done, we'll click on OK. So now that is added. Now let's go back and edit that security policy to include this service group. Let's go back into this rule and let's go to the service tab. Let's remove these individual services, and then let's add our group. Here we are. So once again, that group basically includes HTTP, HTTPS, and our DNS services. Let's click on OK, and let's commit our changes. Okay, that is done. Let's close this. Now let's confirm from our user computer that things still work. Let's go ahead and close this up and let's go back into the internet browser. And we see everything is working again. Let's try a different website this time, like Yahoo. Okay, and that works. So we have confirmed that our outbound policy focused on protocol and port information works.